Are they mine? The words hung in the sterile hospital air like a guillotine blade. Damien Cross stood at the foot of the bed, his hands gripping the metal rail so hard his knuckles had gone white. The woman in the bed, skeletal and connected to more machines than he could count, closed her amber eyes as if his question had physically wounded her. Isla. His ex-wife. The woman he hadn't seen in 7 years. Dying. Don't lie to me, Isla. I saw them. They look exactly like me at that age. The girl has my eyes. One of the boys has my smile. And they're the right age. His voice cracked despite his attempt at control. Are those children mine? Isla's laugh was bitter, broken by a coughing fit that rattled her entire frame. Your children? That's rich coming from the man who told me adoption was too inconvenient to discuss. Who called my passion for helping vulnerable children a misguided savior complex. Answer the question. She turned her head on the pillow to face him fully, and Damien saw something in her expression that terrified him more than her illness. It was resignation. Acceptance. The look of someone who had nothing left to lose. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. They're yours. The room tilted. Damien reached for the visitor's chair and missed, stumbling backward against the wall. You were pregnant. When you left. When we got divorced. You were carrying my children and you didn't tell me? I found out 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was already in Guatemala. Already committed to 2 years of service. Already free from a man who'd made it crystal clear he didn't want the messy complications of family. I had a right to know. Isla's amber eyes flashed with an anger that looked wrong on her wasted face. You had a right? You had a right when you were my husband and we were talking about building a family together. You lost that right when you told me my dreams of adoption were inconvenient. When you said children would have to wait until after the next merger, the next acquisition, the next victory. She paused to catch her breath, the oxygen tube at her nose hissing softly. You had a right to the life you chose, Damien. I wasn't going to trap you with obligation. They're my children. His voice rose despite himself. My flesh and blood. You kept that from me for 7 years. 7 years of birthdays and first words and first steps, and I missed all of it because you decided I didn't deserve to know? I decided they deserved better than a father who saw them as burdens on his schedule. The accusation hit like a physical blow. Damien opened his mouth to argue, to defend himself, to insist he would have stepped up and been the father they needed. But looking at the fierce protectiveness in Isla's dying eyes, he couldn't make that claim. Because 7 years ago, she would have been right. Have you ever discovered a truth so devastating it rewrote your entire life story? Have you ever realized that everything you thought you knew about your past was built on lies and painful choices? This is the story of Damien Cross. A man who built a $12 billion empire but lost everything that actually mattered. And it all began with a sound in the rain. But to understand how Damien ended up in that hospital room, staring at the dying ex-wife who'd kept his children secret for 7 years, we need to go back. Back to the November night when his perfectly controlled world shattered completely. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the estate's study like bullets. Damien sat at his mahogany desk, surrounded by acquisition reports and financial projections for the Nexus merger that would push Cross Innovations past the $15 billion mark. At 39, he'd accomplished everything he'd set out to achieve. The garage startup he'd founded at 23 had become a tech giant that revolutionized cloud computing architecture. He had wealth, influence, a beautiful girlfriend from the right family, and a reputation as one of the most brilliant minds in Silicon Valley. He had everything except the one thing he didn't know he was missing. The sound cut through his concentration so abruptly he looked up from his laptop. Faint. Desperate. Almost lost in the storm's fury. But unmistakable once he'd heard it. Crying. Children crying. Damien stood, moving to the window. The estate's grounds were dark except for the periodic flashes of lightning that illuminated the manicured gardens, the Olympic-sized pool, the tennis courts he never used. Nothing moved out there except the wind-whipped trees. But the crying continued. Thin. Terrified. Getting louder. He moved through the mansion's hallways with growing urgency, following the sound past the formal dining room that seated 20, past the home theater, past the wine cellar that held bottles worth more than most people's cars. The crying was clearer now, coming from somewhere outside the east wing. Damien grabbed his coat and stepped into the storm. Rain immediately soaked through his cashmere sweater, plastering his dark hair to his forehead. He moved across the terrace, past the unused nursery he'd never bothered to convert, toward the old gardener's shed that he'd forgotten existed until this moment. The sound was coming from behind the shed. What Damien found there would haunt him for the rest of his life. 2 children, no more than 5 years old, huddled together beneath a tattered blanket that did nothing to protect them from the downpour. A boy and a girl, identical in their terror, shivering so violently their small bodies seemed to vibrate. The girl clutched a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. The boy held his sister with fierce protectiveness despite his own obvious fear. Their eyes. Amber. The exact shade of honey gold that he'd only ever seen in one other person. Jesus Christ. Damien was already shrugging off his coat, wrapping it around them both. What are you doing out here? Where are your parents? The little girl looked up at him with those devastating amber eyes, and Damien felt something shift in his chest. Something he couldn't name. Something that felt like recognition. Are you Damien? Her voice was barely audible over the storm. His heart stopped. How do you know my name? Mama told us. She said if anything bad happened, we should find the big house on the hill. She said the man with kind eyes would help us. Damien scooped both children into his arms, feeling how light they were, how fragile. Your mama sent you here? Where is she? The hospital. The boy spoke for the first time, his voice small but trying to be brave. She was coughing blood and the ambulance came and they wouldn't let us go with her. The lady from the office took us to Mr. Randy's house but he was mean and smelled funny and yelled at us. So we ran away. We ran away to find you like Mama said. Damien's mind raced as he carried them toward the mansion. Mrs. Chen, his housekeeper, gasped when he came through the door with 2 soaking wet children in his arms. Mrs. Chen, get blankets. Warm ones. And soup. And call Dr. Morrison. I need him here immediately. Mr. Cross, what on earth? Who are these children? I don't know yet. But they're freezing and terrified and they need help. Now. Mrs. Chen hurried away, her questions suspended by the urgency in his voice. Damien brought the children to his study, settling them on the leather sofa nearest the fireplace. As he built up the fire, he studied them in the warm light. Biracial. Asian and Latino features. Delicate bone structure. Those amber eyes. But it was more than their eyes. It was the way the little girl tilted her head when she looked at him, a gesture he'd seen 1,000 times on Isla's face. It was the way the boy tapped his fingers against his thumb when he was anxious, a self-soothing gesture Damien recognized because he did the exact same thing. No. It wasn't possible. Mrs. Chen returned with heated blankets and thermoses of chicken soup. The children accepted them gratefully, their small hands wrapped around the warm containers like lifelines. What are your names? Damien asked gently, kneeling in front of them. I'm Sage. The girl's voice was stronger now, warmed by the fire and safety. This is my brother River. We're twins. Twins. Of course they were. How old are you? 5. We just had our birthday. Mama made us a cake even though she was really sick. It had dinosaurs on it because River loves dinosaurs and flowers because I love flowers. Damien did the math automatically. 5 years old. Which meant they were born approximately. His throat closed. Approximately 8 months after his divorce from Isla was finalized. Your mama. What's her name? River looked at his sister, some silent communication passing between them. Then he turned those solemn eyes to Damien. Mama Isla. But our first mama was someone else. We don't remember her. Mama Isla has been our mama for a long time. Since we were really little. Isla. Damien felt the room spin. It couldn't be. After 7 years of no contact, of moving on with his life, of convincing himself he'd made the right choice. This couldn't be happening. Dr. Morrison arrived within 30 minutes, a tall man in his 60s who'd been Damien's personal physician for years. He examined both children with gentle efficiency, asking quiet questions and making notes on his tablet. After settling them with warm pajamas Mrs. Chen had found somewhere, Dr. Morrison pulled Damien aside. They're malnourished. Not severely, but these children haven't been eating enough for weeks, possibly months. They're also showing signs of prolonged stress. Elevated cortisol levels, hypervigilance, difficulty relaxing even in a safe environment. These are traumatized children, Damien. What kind of trauma? I can't tell without more sessions. But something has happened to them. Multiple somethings, most likely. The good news is there's no evidence of recent physical abuse. No bruises, no fractures. But emotional trauma can be just as damaging. Can you tell me anything else? They're terrified of being sent away. The little girl, Sage, asked me 3 times if you were going to make them leave once they were warm. They've been moved around a lot. Foster care, most likely. Foster care. The words hit Damien with unexpected force. These children had been in the system. Moved from home to home. Abandoned by adults who should have protected them. And somehow, their foster mother was Isla. His Isla. The woman who'd spent their entire marriage fighting for foster care reform and trying to convince him to adopt. The woman who'd apparently given birth to his children and never told him. Dr. Morrison left after making Damien promise to bring the children in for a full workup the next day. Alone with Sage and River, Damien found himself at a loss. He'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. He'd faced down hostile boards and cutthroat investors with ice in his veins. But 2 5-year-olds staring at him with hope and fear in their amber eyes left him completely unmoored. Are you going to send us back to Mr. Randy's? Sage asked, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. No. The word came out more forcefully than he'd intended. You're not going back there. You're safe here. Promise? River's voice was so small, so fragile. I promise. Mama says promises are important. She says you should never make a promise you can't keep. Damien felt something crack in his chest. Your mama is right. And I keep my promises. After Mrs. Chen had settled the children in one of the guest rooms, Damien stood alone in his study, staring at his phone. Isla's number was still there. He'd never deleted it, though he couldn't explain why. For 7 years it had sat in his contacts, a ghost of a life he'd convinced himself he didn't miss. His finger hovered over the call button. What would he even say? I have 2 children here who might be mine. Your foster kids showed up at my house in the rain. Why the hell didn't you tell me I'm a father? He pressed call before he could talk himself out of it. It rang 4 times. Long enough for him to think she wouldn't answer. Long enough to wonder if this number even worked anymore. Then. Hello? The voice was wrong. Weak. Thready. Lacking all of Isla's usual warmth and vibrancy. It sounded like death. Isla Martinez? A sharp intake of breath, followed by coughing so severe Damien could hear fluid rattling in her lungs. Damien? How did you? Why are you? I have 2 children in my house who claim you're their mother. Sage and River. They say you're in the hospital. The silence stretched so long he thought the call had dropped. Are they safe? Her voice cracked with desperate need. Please tell me they're safe. They're safe. Cold and scared and asking for you, but safe. What hospital are you in, Isla? What's going on? Swedish Medical Center. Room 437. But Damien, you can't. More coughing, worse than before. You can't let them see me like this. Like what? What's wrong with you? Her next words came out barely above a whisper. I'm dying. The word hit him like a fist to the chest. What? Interstitial lung disease. Aggressive. I've been fighting it for 2 years but my lungs are failing. I'm on the transplant list but I'm not high enough priority and there's not enough time. Maybe 6 months. Maybe less. Damien sank into his desk chair, the phone pressed so hard against his ear it hurt. The children. They said you're their foster mother. I've been their foster mother for 3 years. I was in the process of adopting them when my diagnosis got worse. The state won't approve an adoption when the prospective parent is actively dying. Her bitter laugh dissolved into more coughing. I've spent 3 years building a family with them and now I'm going to have to watch them get taken away and placed with strangers who don't know that River has nightmares about the first foster home or that Sage can't sleep without her rabbit or that they both need to be reminded every single day that they're wanted and loved. Isla. He didn't know what else to say. Her name was the only thing that came out. I made arrangements with the caseworker. A couple who've been vetted, who have experience with traumatized children. But there was a mix-up and they were placed with Randy Carson as an emergency placement and he's not. He's not safe, Damien. He's not kind. And my babies ran away in a storm to find you because I told them. I told them. Told them what? That if anything ever happened to me, if they ever needed help and I couldn't be there, they should find the big house on the hill where the man with kind eyes lives. Her voice broke completely. I told them about you, Damien. I showed them pictures. I told them you were someone who could keep them safe even though I had no right to ask that of you after everything. Why would you tell them about me? We haven't spoken in 7 years. Because despite everything, I knew you'd protect them if they needed it. She was crying now, he could hear it. I knew that whatever happened between us, you're not the kind of man who'd turn away children in danger. Isla, I need to ask you something and I need you to tell me the truth. The pause was long enough to be its own answer. Ask. Are they mine? He heard her breath catch. Heard the machines in the background beeping faster. Heard the moment she decided to stop lying. Yes. The single word detonated his entire world. Damien stood, paced to the window, pressed his forehead against the cold glass. You were pregnant when you left me. I found out 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized. I was already in Guatemala, already starting my work with Doctors Without Borders. Already free from a marriage that was suffocating us both. And you never thought I deserved to know? I thought they deserved better than being an obligation you resented. Her sudden fury seemed to cost her, triggering another coughing fit. When she could speak again, her voice was raw. What was I supposed to do, Damien? Come crawling back to the man who told me adoption was too inconvenient to discuss? Who made it clear that children would disrupt his precious empire-building schedule? Was I supposed to trap you with a pregnancy you didn't want? I didn't say I didn't want children. I said the timing wasn't right. The timing was never right for you. 3 years of marriage and it was never the right time to talk about adoption, never the right time to take a real vacation, never the right time for anything that wasn't related to the next merger or acquisition. And you think I should have believed you'd suddenly make time for twins? They're my children, Isla. My blood. I had a right to make that choice. And they had a right to a parent who would actually parent them instead of throwing money at nannies while you chased your next billion. That's not fair. You don't know what I would have done. Don't I? Isla's voice grew quiet, sad. I spent 3 years watching you choose your company over our marriage over and over again. Why would your children be different? Damien had no answer for that. Because she was right. 7 years ago, he would have seen children as complications to be managed, not people to build a life around. He would have hired the best nannies, set up trust funds, provided for their every material need while remaining emotionally distant and perpetually absent. He would have failed them exactly the way Isla feared. What happened? He asked instead. How did you end up raising them? I gave birth in Guatemala. 28 weeks. They were so premature, Damien. So tiny and fragile. I spent 3 months in a hospital watching them fight for every breath, terrified I'd lose them both. Alone. The realization hit him hard. You went through that alone. I had friends there. Other volunteers. But yes. Essentially alone. Why didn't you come home? Why didn't you call someone? Your mother, your friends, me? Because I was barely holding myself together and I knew if I called, if I asked for help, I'd have to admit how scared I was. And I couldn't afford to be scared. My babies needed me to be strong. Damien closed his eyes, imagining Isla alone in a foreign hospital, watching their children fight for life, carrying that burden without support. I'm sorry. I should have. I don't know what I should have done, but it should have been more than nothing. You didn't know. That was my choice. What happened after they were stable enough to leave the hospital? I brought them back to Seattle. Got a small apartment near the university where I'd been offered a research position. Planned to raise them while working on my doctorate in child development. Her voice grew distant with memory. I thought I could do it all. Be a single mother, build my career, prove I didn't need anyone's help. But then the symptoms started. The lung disease. Environmental exposure to industrial pollutants near the refugee camp. I was breathing in toxic fumes for 18 months and didn't know it until the damage was done. By the time I was diagnosed, I already had 2 toddlers and a degenerating respiratory condition. I tried to manage it all, but I was getting sicker and they deserved better than watching me slowly fail them. So you put them in foster care. Hardest decision of my life. Isla's voice cracked. But I couldn't give them what they needed anymore. I could barely breathe, barely work, barely function. They needed stability and health and I couldn't provide either. So I placed them in the system and stayed involved as a caseworker's assistant. Eventually I was approved to be their foster parent when my condition temporarily stabilized. I've been working toward adoption for 3 years. Until your diagnosis got worse. Until I ran out of time. Yes. Damien looked out at the rain, processing everything she'd told him. 7 years of secrets. 7 years of struggle he'd known nothing about. 2 children who were his in every biological sense but strangers in every way that mattered. I'm coming to the hospital. Damien, no. You don't need to. Yes. I do. We have a lot to talk about, Isla. And those children deserve answers that I can't give them until I have them myself. After he hung up, Damien stood in the silence of his study, listening to the rain and the distant sound of Sage and River sleeping upstairs. His children. The words felt foreign in his mind. He was a father. Had been a father for 5 years without knowing it. Had missed births and first words and first steps and thousands of moments he could never get back. And the woman who'd kept them from him was dying. If you've ever watched your entire life transform in a single night, you know what Damien felt in that moment. If you've ever realized you missed something precious while chasing something worthless, you understand the regret that crushed his chest until he couldn't breathe. But this story isn't just about regret. It's about whether redemption is possible when you've failed so completely. It's about whether love can survive the ultimate betrayal. And it's about two children who needed someone to choose them first for once in their short, difficult lives. Stick with me, because what happens next will show you whether Damien Cross was capable of becoming the father his children needed. Whether he could let go of the empire he'd built to embrace the family he'd never known existed. The next morning, Damien cancelled his entire schedule. Board meetings, investor calls, the Nexus merger negotiations that had consumed months of planning. All of it suddenly felt distant and unimportant compared to two children eating breakfast in his kitchen with wide, uncertain eyes. Mrs. Chen had made pancakes shaped like animals, a touch that brought genuine smiles to Sage and River's faces for the first time since they'd arrived. "We're going to see your mama today," Damien told them as they ate. "But first I need to understand some things. Can you tell me about your mama Isla? What's she like?" Sage's face lit up. "She's the best mama in the whole world. She reads us stories every night and helps me with my art projects and never gets mad when I make a mess with the paints." River nodded seriously. "She teaches us big words and lets us ask questions about everything. And she always tells the truth even when it's hard. Mama says lying is lazy because the truth is braver." Damien felt the words like an accusation. Isla had always valued honesty above everything else. Which made her choice to hide his children from him even more confusing. "Do you know who I am? To your mama, I mean." The twins exchanged another one of those silent communications that seem to happen without words. "You're the man from the picture in Mama's special box." Sage's voice grew quiet. "She looks at it sometimes when she's sad and cries." "What picture?" "You in a fancy suit. Mama in a white dress. You're both smiling really big." Their wedding photo. Isla had kept their wedding photo. "Mama said you used to be married to her a long time ago. Before we were born." River's analytical mind was clearly trying to piece together information he didn't fully understand. "She said sometimes people love each other but can't stay together because they want different things." "That's true." Damien felt his throat tighten. "Your mama and I did love each other very much. But we wanted different things for our lives and we thought it would be better to be apart." "Do you still love her?" Sage asked with the directness only children possess. The question hung in the air. Damien thought about the easy answer, the diplomatic answer. Then he remembered what River had said. "Mama says lying is lazy because the truth is braver." "Yes. I think I do. I never stopped, even though I tried very hard to." "Then why can't you be together now?" "Because loving someone and being able to build a life with them are different things. And because I made mistakes that hurt her very badly. Mistakes I don't know if she can forgive. Mama says everyone makes mistakes. She says the important thing is learning from them and trying to do better. Your mama is very wise." They arrived at Swedish Medical Center just after 10 in the morning. Damien had called ahead to ensure Isla was strong enough for visitors, to prepare himself for what he'd see. But nothing could have actually prepared him. Room 437 was in the ICU. Isla lay in the bed, connected to oxygen, 4 lines, monitors tracking every struggling breath. She'd always been petite, but now she looked skeletal. Her dark curls were limp against the pillow. Her amber eyes were sunken in deep hollows. But when she saw Sage and River, those eyes filled with a light that seemed to animate her whole wasted frame. "My babies." Her voice was barely a whisper but full of so much love it made Damien's chest ache. "Mama." Sage ran to the bedside, careful not to jostle any wires. "We found the house like you said. The man with kind eyes helped us. Isla's gaze found Damien's over the children's heads. Thank you. The words carried weight beyond simple gratitude. Thank you for keeping them safe. For not turning them away. For being better than I feared you might be. He nodded, unable to speak past the emotion lodging in his throat. For the next hour, Damien watched Isla interact with Sage and River. Watched her ask about their night, praise their bravery, reassure them that she was fighting to get better. Watched her love them with the fierce maternal protectiveness he'd seen glimpses of during their marriage but never fully understood. These children adored her. More than adored. They needed her the way flowers needed sun. And she was dying. Eventually the children grew tired and Mrs. Chen, who'd accompanied them, took them to the family lounge for snacks. Leaving Damien and Isla alone for the first time in 7 years. You look good. Isla's attempt at lightness fell flat. Success suits you. Don't. He moved closer to the bed. Don't make small talk. Not about this. What do you want me to say? I want you to explain why you kept my children from me for 5 years. I want you to explain why you thought I didn't deserve to know they existed. He kept his voice low, controlled, but fury simmered underneath. I want you to explain why you made me a stranger to my own kids. Isla closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they glistened with tears. Because you weren't ready to be their father. That wasn't your decision to make. Yes, it was. It absolutely was my decision to make. She struggled to sit up, wincing with pain. You want to know why I didn't tell you? Fine. Let me paint you a picture. I'm in Guatemala, alone, finding out I'm pregnant with twins just weeks after our divorce. I'm committed to 2 years of humanitarian work. I have no money, no support system, and the man I just divorced told me repeatedly that children would have to wait because his company came first. I would have come back. I would have supported you. Would you? Isla's gaze was unflinching. Or would you have sent money and lawyers and insisted I come back to Seattle where you could control the situation? Where you could hire nannies and set up trust funds and tell yourself you were being a good father while never actually being present? That's not fair. Isn't it? Damien, in our 3 years of marriage, you missed every anniversary dinner because of work emergencies. You cancelled our honeymoon twice. You told me my dream of adoption was inconvenient. Her voice grew stronger with conviction. You loved your company more than you loved me. Why would I believe your children would be different? Because they're my blood. And I was your wife. She shouted, then immediately dissolved into coughing. When she could breathe again, her voice was raw. I was your wife and you let me leave rather than compromise on anything that mattered. You chose your empire over our marriage. Don't act shocked that I didn't trust you to choose differently for children you never wanted in the first place. Damien felt each word like a blade. Because they were true. All of them. 7 years ago, he would have seen fatherhood as an obligation to manage, not a joy to embrace. He would have provided financially while remaining emotionally distant. He would have failed those children exactly the way he'd failed Isla. I'm not that man anymore. Maybe not. But you were that man when it mattered. When I needed you to be different, you couldn't be. So yes, I made a choice to raise them alone. To protect them from the disappointment of a father who saw them as burdens. They're not burdens. They're. He stopped, unsure how to articulate the feeling that had gripped him since finding them in the rain. They're extraordinary. I know. Isla's expression softened. They're brilliant and creative and kind. And they've been through more trauma in their short lives than any child should endure. Tell me. She looked away, toward the window where rain still streaked the glass. Their biological mother was 15 when she had them. Drug-addicted, homeless, desperate. She left them at a fire station when they were 3 days old. They went into foster care immediately. 3 days old. Their first placement was. Isla's voice caught. Not good. The foster father was verbally abusive. Told them constantly they were unwanted, broken, more trouble than they were worth. They were there for 2 years before someone finally reported the conditions. By then the damage was done. Damien felt rage building. Someone hurt them? Not physically. But emotional abuse leaves scars too. They were removed and placed in a second home, which was better, but the foster mother got sick and couldn't care for them anymore. Then a third home where the couple was more interested in the monthly check than the children. By the time I found them, they'd been in the system for 4 years and been through 6 different placements. 6 placements in 4 years. They stopped believing anyone would keep them. Stopped trusting that adults meant what they said. Developed hypervigilance and abandonment issues that will take years of therapy to heal. Isla met his eyes. That's why I fought so hard to adopt them. Because I wanted them to finally have a permanent home. Someone who chose them and kept choosing them no matter what. And now? Now I'm dying and they're going to lose another mother. They're going to be placed in another home with another family and they'll think it's their fault again. That they're too broken to keep. They're not going to another home. Isla's eyes widened. What? They're staying with me. Damien heard himself say it with absolute certainty. I'm their father. I'll petition for custody. You can't. You don't know anything about them. You don't know River has panic attacks when people yell, or that Sage needs to paint when she's processing emotions, or that they both have night terrors about being sent away. Then teach me. You said you have 6 months. Teach me everything I need to know to be their father. Damien, this isn't a business you can acquire and optimize. These are traumatized children who need stability and patience and unconditional love. I know that. Do you? Because 48 hours ago you didn't even know they existed. Now you're ready to completely upend your life for them? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Because they're mine. Because you're dying and they need someone. Because I already missed 5 years and I'm not missing any more. What about your company? Your girlfriend? Your perfectly controlled life? My company will survive without me. I've been meaning to step back anyway. As for Victoria. He shook his head. That was never serious. We both knew it. She won't be happy about instant fatherhood. Then she'll have to be unhappy. Isla studied his face, searching for something. You really mean this? I do. Why? What changed in 2 days? Damien thought about Sage's spontaneous hug. River's solemn trust. The feeling of holding 2 small, shivering children and knowing with absolute certainty that nothing in his life mattered more than keeping them safe. I found them crying in the rain, Isla. Terrified and alone and running from God knows what. They looked at me with your eyes and told me their mama said I was kind. And something in me just. He struggled for words. Woke up, I guess. Or maybe broke open. I looked at them and I didn't see complications or obligations. I saw my children. And I realized every choice I've made for the last 15 years has been leading me away from what actually matters. And what actually matters? Them. You. Family. Connection. Being someone worth remembering when I'm gone. He moved closer to her bedside. I can't undo the past. I can't give you back the years I wasted chasing money and status. But I can show up for our children now. If you'll let me. If you'll give me the chance to be the father they deserve. Even if I don't make it. Even if you're raising them alone. Especially then. Because they'll need someone who loves them unconditionally. And I do, Isla. I already love them. I didn't think it was possible to love people you barely know, but I looked at them and I just... His voice cracked. I love them. Isla was crying now, tears streaming down her wasted cheeks. They need so much, Damien. So much patience and understanding and... I'll learn. I'll make mistakes but I'll learn. They'll test you. Push boundaries to see if you'll send them away like everyone else did. I won't. You can't promise that. You don't know what it's like when River wakes up screaming at 3 in the morning or when Sage refuses to eat for days because she's punishing herself for some perceived failure. Then I'll learn. I'll get help, hire therapists, do whatever it takes. But I'm not walking away from them. Not ever. If this story is hitting you where it hurts, if you believe in second chances and the power of love to transform us, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Let me know you're still with me on this journey. Because what comes next will show you whether Damien can actually become the man he's promising to be. Isla closed her eyes, exhausted from the conversation and the emotion. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, you can be their father. We'll work out custody arrangements. I'll teach you everything I can in whatever time I have left. But Damien, if you hurt them, if you let them down the way you let me down, I won't. I swear to you on everything I have, I won't fail them. She nodded weakly. There's something else you should know. What? I never stopped loving you either. The admission hung between them, raw and honest, and 7 years too late. Before Damien could respond, his phone buzzed. Victoria calling. He rejected it without a second thought. You should probably answer that. No. He pulled a chair to Isla's bedside. I should probably stay here and start learning everything I can about our children. Starting with what makes them laugh. Isla smiled, the expression transforming her gaunt face into something beautiful. River loves bad puns. The worse the better. And Sage laughs when you make up silly songs about everyday things. Tell me more. And she did. For the next 3 hours, while Sage and River napped in the family lounge, Isla told Damien everything about the children they'd created. Their favorite foods, their fears, their dreams, their quirks. She told him about River's fascination with how things worked and Sage's ability to capture emotions in her paintings. She told him about the first time they'd called her mama and how it had made her cry for an hour. She told him about their progress in therapy and the setbacks that still happened. She gave him a roadmap to their hearts. And Damien listened, absorbing every detail, committing every story to memory. Because these were his children and he'd already missed too much. He wouldn't miss any more. Victoria Ashford was waiting in the mansion's formal living room when Damien returned with Sage and River that evening. She stood by the window in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her posture radiating controlled irritation. Damien, we need to talk. Her eyes flicked to the 2 children half hiding behind him. Alone. Mrs. Chen, could you take Sage and River to get settled? Show them the playroom? There's a playroom? Sage's eyes went wide. There is now. Damien had spent his afternoon on the phone arranging for a complete child-friendly transformation of the mansion's east wing. Toys, books, art supplies, everything 2 traumatized children might need to feel safe and welcome. And Sage, there are paints. Every color you can imagine. Really? Her face lit up with such pure joy it made his heart ache. Really? Now go with Mrs. Chen. I'll come check on you in a little bit. After the children left, Victoria turned to him with barely contained fury. Would you like to explain what's happening? You've been unreachable for 2 days. You cancelled the Nexus meetings. And now you have children living in your house? It's complicated. Uncomplicated. Damien took a breath. Those children are mine. Biologically mine. I just found out. Victoria's perfectly made-up face went blank with shock. You have children. Twins. 5 years old. Their mother is my ex-wife and she's dying and they were placed in an unsafe foster home and they ran away to find me. He said it all in one breath, watching her process each piece of information. Your ex-wife. The one you never talk about. Isla. Yes. And she had your children without telling you? It's more complicated than that. Clearly. Victoria's voice took on an edge he'd never heard before. So what exactly are you planning to do? Take custody of 2 children you don't know because their mother is dying? Upend our entire life for a woman who lied to you for 5 years? 7 years. And yes, that's exactly what I'm planning. Without even discussing it with me? Victoria, we've been together for 18 months. It's been pleasant and convenient but we both know it's not serious. We've never even said we love each other. Because we had an understanding. Partnership without messy emotional complications. That was the point. The point for you, maybe. Damien realized as he said it that he'd been settling for pleasant and convenient because he was afraid of anything deeper. Afraid of being hurt the way Isla had hurt him when she left. I don't want that anymore. What do you want? Them. My children. A chance to be the father they need. He moved to the window, looking out at the grounds where he'd found Sage and River less than 48 hours ago. A chance to be someone worth remembering. And what about me? About us? About the life we've been building? We haven't been building a life, Victoria. We've been filling time between charity galas and business dinners. That's not enough anymore. Because you suddenly discovered fatherhood and now you're having some kind of midlife crisis? Because I found 2 terrified children in the rain and realized I've spent 15 years chasing things that don't matter while ignoring everything that does. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. I don't do children, Damien. I've been very clear about that. My career, my foundation work, my life is not compatible with raising kids. I know. I'm not asking you to. So you're choosing them over us. I'm choosing to be their father. If that means us ending, then yes, I guess I am. She picked up her purse with sharp, controlled movements. You're making a mistake. Those children are going to disrupt your entire life. The company will suffer. Your reputation will take a hit when people find out you abandoned a child for 5 years. And you'll resent giving up everything you've built. Maybe. But I'll resent failing them more. Victoria moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you're right about this. I hope those children and your dying ex-wife are worth sacrificing everything for. They are. After she left, Damien stood in the silence of the formal living room, surrounded by expensive art and designer furniture that suddenly felt meaningless. He'd just ended an 18-month relationship without a second thought. Had chosen children he barely knew over a woman who fit perfectly into his life. And he felt nothing but relief. Is the pretty lady mad because of us? Damien turned to find River standing in the doorway, small hands clenched at his sides, face carefully blank in a way that broke Damien's heart. No, buddy. The pretty lady and I wanted different things. That happens sometimes. It's not your fault. Sage says we're too much trouble. That's why we keep getting moved to different houses. River's voice was small but trying so hard to be brave. Are you going to send us to a different house too? Damien crossed the room and knelt to River's eye level. Hey, look at me. River's amber eyes, so much like Isla's, met his reluctantly. You and your sister are not too much trouble. You're exactly the right amount of wonderful. And this is your home now. Nobody's moving you anywhere. Promise? The word carried the weight of every broken promise, every adult who'd let them down, every home they'd been forced to leave. Damien understood the enormity of what River was asking. Promise. You're stuck with me, kid. Even when you test boundaries and push back and do all the things scared children do to see if I'll abandon you, I'm still going to be here. How do you know about that? About testing boundaries? Your mama told me. She told me you'd probably try to make me send you away because that's what you've learned to expect. But here's the thing. I'm not going anywhere and neither are you. So test away. I'll still be here tomorrow. River studied him with those two old eyes. Mama Isla says you used to be married to her. That's right. Did you love her? Very much. Then why did you leave? Damien sat back on his heels, considering how to answer honestly without burdening a 5-year-old with adult complications. Sometimes people love each other but want different things for their lives. I wanted to focus on building my company. Your mama wanted to focus on helping children and families. We couldn't figure out how to do both things together, so we decided to do them apart. Do you still love her? The question hung between them. Damien thought about the easy lie, the comfortable deflection. Then he remembered. Mama says lying is lazy because the truth is braver. Yes. I think I never stopped loving her, even though I tried very hard to. Then why can't you be together now? Because loving someone isn't always enough. You also have to be willing to work hard and compromise and put the other person first sometimes. I wasn't very good at that before. I'm trying to learn to be better. River considered this with serious concentration. Mama says everyone makes mistakes. She says what matters is learning from them and trying to do better next time. Your mama is very smart. Are you learning to do better? I'm trying. Damien felt emotion close his throat. With you and Sage, I'm going to try very hard to do better. River moved forward suddenly, wrapping his small arms around Damien's neck in a fierce hug. Okay. But if you're mean to Mama Isla or make her cry, Sage and I will be very mad at you. That's fair. Damien hugged him back, feeling the fragile trust being offered. I promise to be kind to your mama. That night, after both children were asleep in their new rooms, Damien stood in the doorway between their spaces, watching them. River clutched a stuffed dragon Mrs. Chen had found somewhere. Sage curled around her one-eared rabbit. Both of them looked peaceful in sleep, the hypervigilance that marked their waking hours temporarily released. These were his children. His responsibility. His second chance to get something right. He pulled out his phone and sent a text to his COO. I need to talk to you tomorrow about restructuring my role. It's time for me to step back. The response came within minutes. Is everything okay? Better than it's been in years. I'll explain tomorrow. The next weeks passed in a blur of adjustment and learning. Damien threw himself into fatherhood with the same intensity he'd once applied to business, but quickly learned that children couldn't be managed like acquisitions or optimized like systems. They were messy and unpredictable and emotionally complicated in ways that left him floundering. River had a panic attack on day 4 when Damien raised his voice during a phone call with an investor. The boy went rigid, stopped breathing, turned pale as paper. Damien had no idea what to do until Mrs. Chen rushed in and talked River through breathing exercises while Damien watched helplessly. I'm sorry. Damien knelt beside River afterward. I wasn't yelling at you. I was frustrated with work. But I should have been more aware of how loud I was being. The man at the third house yelled all the time. River's voice was barely audible. When he yelled, bad things happened. What kind of bad things? River shook his head, unwilling or unable to articulate it. Just bad. Damien made a mental note to call River's therapist, to understand what trauma he was accidentally triggering. I'm going to work very hard not to yell. But if I mess up, if I'm too loud or do something that scares you, I need you to tell me. Can you do that? River nodded uncertainly. And Buddy? No matter what, even if I mess up and yell, I'm not going to hurt you or send you away. You're safe here. Always. Sage presented different challenges. She went 3 days without eating more than a few bites, pushing food around her plate with increasing anxiety. When Damien finally asked what was wrong, she burst into tears. I spilled juice on the carpet and Mrs. Chen had to clean it and I'm bad and you're going to send me back. Damien stared at this tiny girl convinced that a minor accident meant abandonment. Sweetheart, everyone spills things. That doesn't make you bad. But I made a mess and messes are bad and I'm supposed to be good so you'll keep me. The logic of a traumatized child. Good behavior equals being kept. Bad behavior equals being sent away. Sage, listen to me. You don't have to be perfect for me to keep you. You can spill juice and make messes and have bad days and I'm still going to be here. That's what family means. We don't have to earn each other. But at the other houses. This isn't the other houses. This is your home and you're my daughter and nothing you do is going to change that. Even if I'm bad? Even then. Although I don't think you're bad. I think you're a wonderful little girl who's been hurt by people who should have protected you. Sage stared at him with those amber eyes full of desperate hope. You really mean it? I really mean it. She started eating again after that, though she still apologized excessively for normal childhood mistakes. Damien learned to reassure her constantly, to reinforce that she was wanted not for her behavior but for herself. The visits to see Isla became a regular part of their routine. Every afternoon, Damien would bring Sage and River to the hospital where they'd spend an hour with their mama. He'd watch Isla light up when they entered, watch her push through pain and exhaustion to be present for them, watch her love them with a fierceness that made him understand why she'd kept them secret. She'd been protecting them. From disappointment, from a father who might fail them, from the possibility of more abandonment in lives already defined by it. How are they doing? Isla asked one afternoon after the children had gone to get snacks. They're amazing. Damien settled into the visitor's chair he'd occupied for hours over the past weeks. River asked me to help him build a robot yesterday. We spent 3 hours on it and it doesn't work at all, but he was so proud. He loves building things. Creating something from nothing. Isla smiled. Like someone else I used to know. I was never that patient. If something didn't work immediately, I'd move on to something else. Maybe you're learning. Maybe. He studied her face, noting the increased pallor, the labored breathing even with oxygen. How are you really doing? Isla's smile faded. Honestly? Not great. My lung function is declining faster than expected. The doctors are talking about moving me up the transplant list, but there's no guarantee. How much time? Maybe 3 months. Maybe less. Damien felt panic rise. That's not enough. We need more time. The kids need more time with you. I know. But we don't get to choose these things. She reached for his hand, her grip weak but determined. Which is why I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll tell them every day that I loved them. That I didn't choose to leave. That if I could have stayed, would have. You're going to tell them yourself. Damien, please. I need to hear you promise. He gripped her hand carefully, feeling the fragile bones beneath papery skin. I promise. Every single day, I'll make sure they know you love them more than anything. And promise me you'll get them help. Good therapists who understand trauma. They're going to need years of support to work through everything they've experienced. Already done. I've hired Dr. Sarah Chen, supposed to be the best child trauma specialist in the state. They start sessions next week. Good. Isla's eyes were drifting closed with exhaustion. You're doing better than I expected. Is that a compliment? It's an acknowledgement that people can change when they choose to do the work. I'm choosing. Every day, I'm choosing them. I can see that. Her voice was getting weaker. Damien, there's something else we need to discuss. What? Custody. If I don't make it, you'll need legal documentation. I've already told the caseworker you're their biological father and that it's my wish for you to have full custody. But you'll need to go through the process officially. I'll call my lawyer tomorrow. And there's paperwork. Financial stuff. I don't have much, but there's a life insurance policy from the university and some savings. I want it all to go to the kids. Isla, they don't need your money. I can provide everything. It's not about need. It's about them having something from me. Something that says I thought about their future even when I wasn't going to be in it. Damien felt his chest tighten. Okay. We'll set it up however you want. Thank you. For all of this. For stepping up when you didn't have to. For being better than I believed you could be. I'm still going to mess up. I already have, multiple times. But you're trying. That's what matters. Isla's eyes opened again, finding his. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about them from the beginning. I thought I was protecting them, but maybe I was protecting myself too. From having to share them. From risking that you'd disappoint them the way you disappointed me. I earned that distrust. Maybe. But you're earning their trust now. And mine. Before Damien could respond, his phone buzzed with a call from his lawyer. He stepped into the hallway to take it, discussing the custody paperwork and legal steps needed to ensure Sage and River would stay with him permanently. When he returned to the room, Isla had fallen asleep, her chest rising and falling in labored rhythm. He sat beside her bed, watching her breathe, and realized with startling clarity that he'd never stopped loving this woman. That Victoria had been a pleasant distraction from the truth that Isla Martinez had owned his heart since the day they met and probably always would. The question was whether loving her was enough now, when it hadn't been enough before. If you're invested in this family's journey, if you want to see whether they get their happy ending or whether life has more heartbreak in store, leave me a comment. Tell me what you're feeling right now. And make sure you're subscribed because the next part of this story will absolutely wreck you in the best way possible. Week 6 brought a crisis. River woke up screaming at 2 in the morning, thrashing in his bed, trapped in a nightmare he couldn't escape. Damien ran to his room to find the boy hyperventilating, eyes wide with terror, seeing something that wasn't there. River, buddy, you're safe. You're home. Nobody's going to hurt you. But River couldn't hear him, locked in whatever memory had grabbed him. Damien did the only thing he could think of. He climbed into the small bed and wrapped his arms around his son, holding him through the panic. You're safe. I've got you. You're safe. It took 20 minutes for River to come back to himself, gasping and crying and gripping Damien's shirt with desperate hands. The bad place. It was the bad place again. You're not in the bad place. You're home with me and Sage and Mrs. Chen. You're safe. He said we were broken. The first foster dad. He said we were too broken to love. Damien felt rage so pure it nearly choked him. River, look at me. The boy's amber eyes found his. You are not broken. You've been hurt, but that's not the same thing. And you are absolutely lovable. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. Really? Really? You and Sage are the best thing that ever happened to me. River buried his face in Damien's chest and sobbed. Not the quiet, controlled crying of a child trying to be good. The loud, messy, desperate crying of someone finally feeling safe enough to fall apart. Damien held him through it, whispering reassurances and promises, learning what it meant to be the safe place someone ran to instead of from. Sage appeared in the doorway, clutching her rabbit. Is River okay? He had a bad dream. But he's going to be fine. I have bad dreams too. Her small voice was uncertain. About the loud man who said we were mistakes. Come here, sweetheart. Sage climbed into the bed too, curling against Damien's other side. He sat there with both his children tucked against him, feeling their small hearts beating, their trust offered cautiously but genuinely. This was what mattered. Not board meetings or profit margins or empire building. This. Two broken children learning they were lovable. A father learning that showing up was more important than success. Can you tell us about our mama when she was younger? Sage asked softly. Before she was sick. Damien thought back to the woman he'd met 10 years ago, vibrant and passionate and full of light. Your mama was the most amazing person I'd ever met. She had this laugh that made everyone around her smile. And she cared so deeply about making the world better, especially for kids who needed help. Like us? Especially like you. She spent her whole life fighting to make sure children in foster care were treated with love and respect. That was her dream. Did she love you? River asked. Very much. And I loved her. But I wasn't very good at showing it. I was too focused on my work and not focused enough on the people who mattered. Do you love her now? Yes. I think I never stopped. Then why don't you marry her again? Sage's childish logic cut straight to the point. If you love each other, you should be together. It's complicated, sweetheart. Adults always say that when they don't want to explain things. She was right, of course. Your mama is very sick. She might not have much time left. And even if she did, I hurt her badly before. I don't know if she could trust me enough to try again. You could ask her. River's voice was pragmatic. Mama says you never know the answer unless you ask the question. Maybe you're right. The next day, Damien brought the children to the hospital as usual. But this time, after they'd visited with Isla and Mrs. Chen had taken them to the cafeteria, he stayed behind. I need to talk to you about something. Isla raised an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. Not ominous. Just. He struggled for words. Important. Okay. I'm listening. The kids asked me last night why we're not together. If we love each other, they reasoned, we should be married. Out of the mouths of babes. Isla's smile was sad. What did you tell them? That I hurt you too badly. That I didn't know if you could trust me again. That's probably true. Damien moved closer to her bed. Is it? Because I've been thinking a lot over the past 6 weeks. About who I was and who I'm trying to become. About what matters and what's just noise. And what conclusion did you reach? That I wasted 7 years convincing myself I was happy when I was just avoiding feeling anything real. That the woman I married was the best thing that ever happened to me and I was too blind to see it. That our children are extraordinary and I almost missed knowing them because I was too focused on things that don't matter. Damien. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I failed you spectacularly the first time. But Isla, if you... He stopped, gathering courage. If you have any time left, I don't want to waste it. I want to spend whatever time we have being the husband I should have been. The partner you deserved. I'm dying. I know. So you want to marry me knowing you might lose me in months? Knowing you'll end up raising our children alone anyway? I want to marry you because I love you and I wasted too much time already. Whatever time we have, I want to spend it together. Building the family we should have built 7 years ago. Isla's eyes filled with tears. That's a beautiful speech. It's not a speech. It's the truth. What if I can't trust you? What if I'm too scared you'll choose your company over us again? Then I'll prove myself every single day until you can trust me. I've already restructured my role at Cross Innovations. I'm advisory only now, working maybe 10 hours a week. The rest of my time is for you and the kids. You stepped back from your company? It's just a company, Isla. You're my family. She stared at him with wonder. Who are you and what did you do with Damien Cross? The old Damien died the night I found our children crying in the rain. This version is trying very hard to be better. Isla reached for his hand. I'm scared. Me too. I don't know how much time I have. Then let's not waste any of it. What if I don't get new lungs? What if I die and leave you alone with 2 traumatized children? Then I'll raise them and tell them every day how much their mama loved them. And I'll make sure they know that the time we had as a family, however short, was worth everything. Tears streamed down Isla's face. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, let's try. Let's build something in whatever time we have. But Damien, if you hurt me again. I won't. I swear on everything I have, I won't. She pulled him closer with what little strength she had. Then kiss me, you fool. We've already wasted 7 years. He kissed her gently, carefully, mindful of her fragility. It wasn't the passionate kiss of their first marriage, fueled by chemistry and certainty. This was something deeper. A kiss built on understanding, forgiveness, and the hard-won knowledge that love required daily choice, not just feeling. When they pulled apart, Isla was smiling. We should probably tell the children. They're going to be insufferable about being right. Let them be right. We've given them so few opportunities to see adults make good choices. That afternoon, with Sage and River sitting on Isla's hospital bed, Damien made an announcement. Your mama and I have decided to get married again. Sage's face lit up like sunrise. Really? You're going to be a family? We already are a family. But yes, we're going to make it official. River studied them seriously. Does this mean you're going to stay with us forever? Not just until Mama dies. I'm staying forever. No matter what happens. You're stuck with me. Good. River nodded with satisfaction. Because Sage and I voted and we want to keep you. The wedding happened 2 weeks later in Isla's hospital room. It wasn't the elaborate affair their first wedding had been. No designer dress or expensive venue or hundreds of guests. Just Isla in a simple white nightgown, Damien in jeans and a button-down shirt, Sage and River as witnesses, and a hospital chaplain who'd agreed to perform the ceremony. Do you, Damien Cross, take Isla Martinez to be your wife? To love and cherish her in sickness and in health? To prioritize this family above all else? To be present and patient and willing to do the hard work of partnership? I do. With all my heart, for all my life, I choose this family first. And do you, Isla Martinez, take Damien Cross to be your husband? To trust in his growth and change? To believe in his commitment to you and your children? To give him grace as he learns to be the partner and father you all deserve? I do. With hope, with faith, and with love that's stronger for having survived the breaking. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Damien kissed Isla softly, hearing Sage and River cheer, feeling tears run down his own face. This wasn't how he'd imagined a wedding. But it was perfect because it was real. Built not on fantasies of forever but on the honest acknowledgement that they'd both failed before and were choosing to try again anyway. I love you. He whispered against Isla's lips. I love you too. And Damien? Thank you for becoming someone worth loving. I was always worth loving. I just had to learn to act like it. That night, after Sage and River were asleep and Mrs. Chen had taken them home, Damien sat beside Isla's bed, watching her rest. His wife. Again. Against all odds and logic. His wife. His phone buzzed with a call from Dr. Reeves, his personal physician. Damien, I have news. I've been working with the transplant team and calling in every favor I have. We got Isla moved up the priority list. If a match comes through, she'll be near the top. How near? Top 5 in the region. It was more than he'd hoped for. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. Don't thank me yet. She still needs a match. But her chances are better than they were. Damien hung up and looked at his sleeping wife. Hold on, Isla. Just hold on a little longer. 3 weeks after the wedding, at 3:47 in the morning, the call came. Mr. Cross, we have a donor match. We need Isla at the hospital immediately for prep. The transplant surgery will begin within hours. Damien's hands shook as he made arrangements. Called Mrs. Chen to stay with the children. Called the surgical team. Called everyone who needed to know that the fight for Isla's life was about to reach its critical moment. Isla was already awake when he arrived at the hospital. They're going to do it? The surgery? They're going to do it. You're going to get new lungs and then you're going to get better and we're going to take our kids home and build the life we should have built all along. What if something goes wrong? It won't. Damien, promise me. If something happens, promise me you'll take care of them. Promise me you'll be the father they need. Nothing is going to happen. But I promise. Always, I promise. The surgical team arrived to prep Isla for the 14-hour procedure. Damien held her hand until they wheeled her away, whispering prayers and promises to the universe. Then he went home to his children. Sage and River were awake despite the early hour, sitting at the kitchen table with Mrs. Chen. Is Mama going to die? Sage asked immediately. Damien sat down with them, pulling both children close. Mama is getting new lungs. The doctors are going to fix what's wrong so she can breathe better and get stronger. But what if the surgery doesn't work? River's analytical mind cut straight to the fear. Then we'll deal with it together. But I believe it's going to work. I believe your mama is going to fight with everything she has because she loves you both so much. We love her too. I know you do. And that love is powerful. Never forget that. The hours crawled by. Damien tried to maintain normalcy, making breakfast, playing games, reading stories. But his mind was in that operating room, watching surgeons remove Isla's failing lungs and replace them with healthy ones. Watching them give his wife a chance at life. Please. He prayed silently. Please let this work. Let me have more time with her. Let our children keep their mother. Hour 6. Hour 9. Hour 12. Finally, at 6:23 that evening, Dr. Reeves called. She's out of surgery. It went as well as we could have hoped. The new lungs are functioning and her vitals are strong. The next 72 hours are critical, but Damien, she's alive. She made it through. Damien closed his eyes, feeling tears finally break free. Thank you. God, thank you. Sage and River watched him with wide eyes. Is Mama okay? Mama made it through surgery. She's going to need time to heal, but the doctors think she's going to be okay. Both children burst into tears, holding each other and crying with relief. Damien gathered them close, the three of them clinging together in the middle of the kitchen, a family forged in crisis and sealed by hope. The recovery was long and grueling. Isla spent weeks in the ICU, fighting infections and rejection. There were setbacks that terrified them all, moments when it seemed like her body might reject the transplant. But slowly, painfully, she got stronger. 3 months after the surgery, she came home. Not to a hospital bed or medical facility. Home to the mansion that Damien had transformed from sterile showcase to actual home. Home to children who'd painted welcome home signs and scattered rose petals. Home to a husband who'd spent every day proving he meant his promises. Welcome home, Mama. Sage threw herself into Isla's arms carefully, mindful of her still healing body. I missed you so much, baby girl. We made you a special dinner. River was practically vibrating with excitement. And we set up your room exactly how Daddy said you like it. Isla looked at Damien over the children's heads. You set up my room? Our room. If that's okay with you. She smiled, the real smile he'd fallen in love with 10 years ago. It's more than okay. That evening, after Sage and River were finally asleep after hours of excitement, Damien and Isla sat in their bedroom. The master suite had been transformed into a recovery space with medical equipment on standby, but also made comfortable with soft lighting and Isla's favorite books and photographs of the children. I can't believe this is real. Isla touched the photograph of all 4 of them taken the day before her surgery. That we get to do this. Be a family. We almost didn't. Damien sat beside her on the bed, taking her hand. I almost lost you because I was too stubborn and blind to see what mattered. But you changed. That's what counts. Did I change? Or did finding Sage and River just force me to see who I should have been all along? Does it matter? Change is change, regardless of the catalyst. I guess not. He studied her face, noting the color returning to her cheeks, the easier breathing. You're beautiful, you know that? I'm a recovering transplant patient with scars and medication side effects. You're the woman who raised our children alone. Who fought for them when no one else would. Who gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. You're the most beautiful person I've ever known. Isla's eyes filled with tears. I love you. Even when I tried not to, I loved you. I know. And I'm going to spend the rest of our lives, however long that is, making sure you never regret giving me another chance. Just promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll keep choosing us. When work gets demanding or opportunities arise or the company needs you. Promise me you'll remember this moment and choose us. I promise. Every single day, I choose this family. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of their home. Somewhere down the hall, River was probably sneaking out of bed to read by flashlight, a habit they discovered and decided not to discourage. Sage was most likely talking to her stuffed rabbit, processing the day through imaginative play. Their children. Happy and safe and loved. A family built on second chances and hard-won trust. 6 months later, the backyard of the mansion had been completely transformed. The pristine, untouchable landscape was now joyful chaos. A treehouse dominated one corner, built by Damien's own fumbling hands with River's enthusiastic help. Sage's artwork decorated every surface, including a massive mural on the garage wall that the estate manager had initially protested but Damien had insisted on. Isla sat in a cushioned chair, watching Damien push both twins on the new swing set. She was still too thin but getting stronger every day. Color had returned to her face. Her breathing was easier. She was alive in ways that had seemed impossible a year ago. You're spoiling them. She called out. Absolutely. I have years of birthdays to make up for. Damien caught Sage mid-swing, making her shriek with laughter. You can't buy back lost time. No, but I can make sure we don't lose any more of it. Sage ran over, grass stains on her knees and pure joy on her face. Mama, Daddy, come see what we built. What did you build, sweetheart? A castle. River's voice was serious with pride. For protecting the people you love. They followed the children to an elaborate construction of sticks, rocks, and pure imagination. It was gloriously imperfect and completely wonderful. It's beautiful. Isla said, and meant it. That evening, after the children were in bed, Damien found Isla on the back porch watching stars emerge over Seattle. "I keep thinking about the moment I found them." He settled beside her. Two terrified children in the rain, sent to find a man they'd never met because their mother believed I'd keep them safe even though I'd proven myself unworthy of that trust. "You were worthy. I always knew you were, deep down. I just didn't know if you'd choose to be. I'm choosing. Every day for the rest of my life, I'm choosing this family over everything else." Isla leaned her head against his shoulder. "I loved you even when I hated you. Even when I was raising our children alone and cursing your name, I loved you. I'm so sorry, Isla. For all of it. For being the man who made you feel you couldn't trust me with our children." "Stop." She turned to face him. "I don't need you to apologize for the past anymore. I need you to show up for the future." "I will. I promise." "Then that's enough." She kissed him, soft and full of possibility. Not the desperate kiss of their first marriage built on passion and naive certainty. This was deeper. Built on understanding, forgiveness, and the knowledge that love combined with daily choice and effort could move mountains. "Do you ever regret it?" Damien asked when they pulled apart. "Taking me back? Giving me this second chance?" "Never. This, right here, right now. This is what I always wanted. Not the mansion or the money or any of it. Just you and me and our children building something real. We almost didn't get here. But we did. That's what matters." Inside, Sage called out. "Mama? Daddy? I had a bad dream." They went to her together, both of them climbing into her small bed to comfort her. River woke up and joined them, not wanting to be left out. The four of them crowded into a bed meant for one, tangled together, a family in the truest sense. This was what mattered. Not empires or acquisitions or status. This. Connection. Presence. Love expressed through showing up every single day. Damien had spent 15 years building a fortune. But it took losing everything to understand what wealth really meant. 1 year after Isla's transplant, they stood in the backyard under the oak tree where Sage and River loved to play. A small gathering of friends and family watched as they renewed their vows. But this ceremony was different from both their first wedding and their hospital room remarriage. This time, Sage and River participated. "Do you, Sage and River, accept Damien as your father? To love him and trust him and give him grace as he learns to be the dad you deserve?" "We do." Both children spoke in unison, hands clasped. "And do you, Damien, accept Sage and River as your children? To prioritize them always? To show up for every moment, big and small? To be the father they need, not the father you think they should have?" "I do. With all my heart, for all my life." The adoption papers were signed that afternoon, making official what had been true in their hearts for a year. Sage and River were legally, permanently, irrevocably his. No more foster care. No more uncertainty. No more fear of being sent away. They were a family. Chosen and fought for and built on foundations of love that had survived every test. That night, Damien stood in the doorway of the children's rooms, watching them sleep. Tomorrow they'd wake up with a different last name. Cross. They'd be Sage Cross and River Cross, children who belonged somewhere at last. "Thank you." Isla's voice came from behind him. "For what?" "For becoming the man I always hoped you could be. For loving them the way they deserve. For proving that people really can change when they choose to do the work. I had good motivation." He pulled her close. "3 people I love more than anything in the world. We love you too. All of us." They stood together in the quiet house, listening to their children breathe, feeling the weight and wonder of family. It wasn't perfect. There would be more challenges, more therapy sessions, more moments when trauma reared its head. But they'd face it together. A family forged in fire and sealed by choice. If this story touched your heart. His wife and children in the home they'd built together, he finally understood what it meant to be truly rich. Not in money. In love. In presence. In the sacred trust of being someone's safe place to land. That's the truth that broke him. Not that he'd failed before. But that he'd been given the gift of trying again. The chance to choose differently. The opportunity to prove that change is possible when you want it badly enough. And he chose love. Every single day, without hesitation, he chose family over everything else. That's the lesson. That's the moral. That's what this story is really about. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. It's never too late to choose what actually matters. And love, real love built on daily choice and hard-won trust, can survive anything. Even the mistakes that should have destroyed it. This is Mr. Lawson reminding you that second chances are sacred. Don't waste them. And if you're lucky enough to be given one, choose love. Choose presence. Choose family. Every single time, choose what matters. Until next time. If you believe in the power of redemption and second chances, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me, do you think Isla was right to keep the children from Damien initially? Was she protecting them or denying him the chance to step up? There's no easy answer, and I read every single comment. And let me ask you something else. Have you ever been given a second chance you didn't deserve? Have you ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Share your story. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you believe people can change when they choose to do the hard work, smash that like button. If you want more stories about love, loss, and the lessons that shape us, subscribe and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to believe it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Because here's the truth Damien Cross learned the hard way. Success isn't measured in dollars or achievements or empires built. It's measured in the people who trust you with their hearts. In the children who call you dad. In the daily choice to show up, fully present and committed, for the people you love. Damien found 2 crying children in the rain and it broke him completely. Shattered every assumption he'd made about what mattered. Forced him to confront every failure and fear. And in that breaking, he discovered something extraordinary. The children he thought he was saving actually saved him. They gave him the chance to become someone worthy of their love. Someone who understood that the greatest wealth isn't what you acquire but who you choose to be for the people who matter most. Sometimes our biggest mistakes become our most powerful teachers. Sometimes the people we hurt most deeply show us who we're capable of becoming. And sometimes, if we're extraordinarily lucky, life gives us a second chance to get it right. Damien got his second chance. He grabbed it with both hands and refused to let go. And surrounded by